They say today is a celebration of freedom. As fireworks scream across the sky above stolen land, we're expected to cheer. The flags waving from porch rails are sewn in sweatshops by hands that never taste the liberty they're sold to represent. Patriotic songs written by men who owned other human beings echo through neighborhoods while history books spin a fairy tale about 1776, a moment hailed as the birth of freedom, though it deliberately excluded everyone not white, male, and wealthy. So I have to ask, freedom for who? 10 years of my life went to this country believing that sacrifice meant something. The uniform I wore with pride. Afghanistan became my second home. Friends were torn apart, some physically, others spiritually. Back then, I convinced myself that duty would earn me a place of dignity, that maybe I'd finally be seen as someone who mattered. But the country I returned to discarded me. That war did not stay overseas. It followed me back in trauma and in nightmares that never leave. It seeped into my bones and settled into the cracks of my life. Relief never came. What waited was another battlefield, only this one came with less gunfire and more paperwork. Explosions became overdoses. Firefights turned into suicides. Though no bullets flew, many of us died just the same. Plenty of my brothers and sisters made it back in body, only to lose their minds to addiction or their lives to the slow violence of abandonment. That violence is personal. My service did not spare me homelessness. I've slept in alleyways and surfed couches, unsure whether I'd wake up to frostbite or handcuffs. I've detoxed alone in gas station bathrooms. Hunger gnawed at me for days. I fought tooth and nail just to speak to someone at the VA, only to be handed a pamphlet and told I'd get a call. They said service meant something, but I know now what it really meant. What once felt like honor, I now recognize as complicity. Killing was the skill I was trained to master, not for justice, not for freedom, but for profit. My license to murder came wrapped in camouflage, and the bait was benefits. Triggers I pulled weren't for liberation, they were for oil executives and defense contractors. Every order I followed helped fortify an empire that grinds the poor into pulp so the rich can stack more blood-soaked dollars. While I fought for scraps at home, billions of our tax dollars were sent overseas, not to aid suffering, but to fund Israel's genocide in Gaza. This country refused to house me, yet funded missiles to drop on refugee camps. Apartheid regimes are armed without hesitation. Meanwhile, families here are told there's not enough in the budget for housing or food stamps. And now we teeter on the brink of yet another war, this time with Iran. The world watches in horror as our leaders beat the drums of bloodshed, hoping we'll forget how little we have while they pour everything we do have into empire. Veterans sleep in tents, others overdose in parking lots or try to detox behind bars instead of in treatment facilities. They call it defense. The U.S. maintains over 800 military bases across the planet. Not a single foreign military base exists on military or on American soil. That's not defense, it is domination. A colonial boot on the throat of the world cloaked in red, white, and blue. Tell me, what kind of freedom requires a boot on every neck but our own? Peace was never the goal, power is. Manufactured enemies justify carnage, gets packaged and sold as patriotism. I once believed the lie. Burying more friends at home than I did overseas shattered that illusion. The flag I fought under did not wave for me once I came back broken. Now I see exactly how the war machine operates. Uniforms do not protect you. This system chews up soldiers and civilians alike. Once every ounce of usefulness is drained, it throws you away without hesitation. That is not freedom, it is exploitation with a marketing budget. And yet, I remain. I'm still sober, still breathing, and fighting like hell for the ones this country left behind. Silence is not an option. I've seen too much to shut up. Funerals keep piling up. Overdoses never stop. This system is built to devour, and it's working exactly as designed. We're the ones who keep this country standing. Not the billionaires, not the politicians, not the CEOs sucking the marrow from our bones. Real power lives in the workers, the caretakers, the fighters, the healers, the single moms, the addicts in recovery, the overworked, the underpaid, people like us.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
And they still treat us like we're disposable. We're told to vote a little harder, protest a little softer, ask a little nicer. Change, they say, will come if we just keep waiting. That is a lie. Real change comes from organizing, from building power together, from linking arms and saying no to genocide, to poverty, to war. Resistance is not just justified, it is survival. There's no honor in staying quiet while our government funds apartheid. Ignoring genocide because it's inconvenient to U.S. foreign policy is not justice. Polite loyalty will not save us. What we need now is coordinated defiance. If you want liberation, you're going to have to fight for it. Not with bullets, not with empty slogans, through solidarity, through collective action, through naming the enemy, this machine that feeds on life and sells it as progress, capitalism. This holiday, this 4th of July, means nothing if it only honors the already free. What does it mean to Gaza buried in rubble? What does it mean to the veterans freezing beneath overpasses? What does it mean to families skipping meals while weapons manufacturers toast champagne? They tell us to light fireworks. I say we light a fire under their system. Rip up the script, smash the illusion. Freedom was not gifted, it was stolen, and we've got every right to take it back. Because if we don't, they'll keep killing us quietly, with poverty, with prisons, with war dressed up as peace. So rise, stand beside me, build the thing we were never given. Fight like survival depends on it, because for many of us, it already does. Let's get free and drag the rest of this country with us. This is our revolution. West Virginia fights back from the hollers to the hood.
Woo!